In this episode, I'm speaking with Emily Bron from International Lifestyle Consulting. Emily helps people relocate for retirement or for remote workers finding their ideal destinations. Emily has relocated to a foreign country multiple times in her life, and you'll probably pick that up from her accent. She is relocating again and helping others do the same. Cue the music.
Welcome to the Repurpose Your Career podcast, brought to you by Career Pivot. This podcast is where those of us in the second half of life come together to discuss how to repurpose our careers for the 21st century. Come listen to career experts give you proven strategies. Listen to people like you tell their stories on how they repurpose their careers. And finally, get your questions answered. Your host, Mark Miller, has made 6 career pivots over the last 30 years. He understands this is not about jumping out of the frying pan into a fire, but rather to create a plan where you make clear, actionable steps or pivots to a better future career. Are you ready to repurpose your career?
Welcome to episode 337 of the Repurpose Your Career podcast. My name is Mark Miller, and I'll be your host every Monday for discussion on what it's like to repurpose your career. In this episode, I'm speaking with Emily Bron from International Lifestyle Consulting. Emily helps people relocate for retirement or for remote workers finding their ideal destinations. Emily has relocated to a foreign country multiple times in her life, and you'll probably pick that up from her accent. She is relocating again and helping others do the same. Let me read Emily's bio. After living and working in 4 countries, 3 continents, experienced several immigrations and changing professional fields, engineering, research, banking, IT, and travel consulting, and being an avid traveler with a cultural discovery mindset, she created International Lifestyle Consulting to advise how to find the best matching place for you to relocate abroad for a better quality of life, work, or retirement. As a professional baby boomer and a remote worker, she is relocating again. Her guidance and advice are based on the following: her multi-immigration and life experience of relocating alone and with family, daily follow-up on selected destination news and immigration updates, first-hand travel experience at each location, thorough destination inspection with relocation in mind, real-time updates for each recommended area, knowledge of immigration options and the relocation process, and information from local contacts and resources. She is fully proficient in English and Russian and can speak other languages. So this episode is sponsored by the Career Pivot community, but more on that later. Without delay, let's get to my discussion with Emily Bron. Welcome to the Repurpose Your Career podcast. I have the real joy of having Emily Bron, who runs International Lifestyle Consulting for empty nesters and remote workers to find their dream destination and live, work, retire abroad. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Mark. Hello. It's a pleasure to be with you, to speak with you. Yes, I'm here. And by the way, I'm from Toronto, Canada right now.
So we were going to talk about what it means to relocate to another country, the mindset shift. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a very loaded topic, I would say. And I know it not from the books. I know it from my personal experience, because over my lifespan, I relocated several times from country to country with different language, even with different social system, being in different age. Like I've been young with a young family, after then more mature family. And now actually I am in process of relocation again, and actually to Mexico. So my observations and thoughts and actually idea to create this business came partially from my personal multi-immigration experience, as well as desire to help people who might not have such experience, but looking for relocation abroad, or maybe already relocated, and they have some issues along the road, because it's actually, frankly speaking, pretty complicated, might be, and sometimes challenging and even stressful process. So I am about how to make it better, easy, somehow, if I can.
When someone says, I think I want to do this, what's the most important thing that they have to think about? What's like we've talked about before, is what are some of the mindset shifts they may have to make?
I think even before speaking about mindset shift, they should be clear and answer their own question: why? Why I do it? What are the motivation? Because if people just running from the issues like internal issues, they might find the same issues in other country, even multiplied, because it will be on a new environment, and maybe without social circle or help, they might be relying on at home. So it should be clear, and reasons can be different. And some of them are very valid. You know, for young people, it might be one reasons. I would probably specify now the reasons that I think I notice are prevalent for baby boomers, for people after 50, 55, and I belong to this group. I believe I understand the main motives, who are considering relocation. So speaking about North American, and by the way, it's very important to outline where people are coming from, because people from different cultures might have different motives as well. And since I live in Canada for 26 years, and I'm very involved, specifically lately, with all topics with Canadians and Americans, I try to satisfy this group of people. I'm speaking now about baby boomers. I understand that main reasons for people to move are cost of living, increased cost of health services in United States, and lack of available services in Canada. I differentiate here. Weather, which is a very valid for me point, because with age we became more sensitive, I would say, to the weather extremes, and we would like to live in good climate, not to shovel snow. Personally, I am about enjoying more good weather. And for some people with, I would say, adventure spirit, there is still some connotation of exploring something new, maybe new country, maybe to do something that we didn't have time and opportunity to do during our kind of previous life, because we were busy with our business, families, raising children. And now I'm speaking about empty nesters. We kind of fulfilled all our responsibilities and obligations. And for example, for me, it's important as well to experience something new, like to live in a new culture, to learn something new, to be a different person, maybe grow up a little bit.
A lot of folks who decide to do this, they look at places where they vacationed and they say, I want to move there.
And it's one of the points that I always say: don't confuse vacation with relocation. I have even an article, and probably I will make a whole webinar in the future about this topic. And I understand why. Like I myself was coming from the traveling experience as well. By the way, I'm traveler, avid traveler, and I've had travel companies. And I understood how amusing can be the experience of vacation. And actually, it's a first step of being a new place, to understand how the first impression is always important. Yes. But even for travel, people need to be prepared. But I would say that relocation process and even selection of the country, which might be better for these purposes, should be based on the different consideration. So even nice pictures and nice impressions from own experience, it's kind of should be taken away. And people, when relocating, actually should think about something else. And many people looking in the internet, trying to find in forums, to participate in some conversations and go to some webinars. It's all good. But I believe without personal experience, specifically if people didn't have immigration experience or a lot of travel experience in the past, they might have some challenges. First of all, to decide what country is better for me and how to be better prepared. And I would say even maybe some controversial for some people thing. And because I am immigrant and I was relocating a couple of times, and actually I was mostly always working with immigrants from the different cultures and different countries, even in Canada, like even now. And I like people. I like to speak with people if they open, communicate and ask about background and how was the experience. There are some certain traits, I would say, in different cultures. And again, it's going back to the motives why people are relocating, because majority of people who are relocating to Canada, they are looking for better life, better opportunities, and freedom. But people who are looking for, say, Mexico or Latin America should consider such a things as really climate, but climate all year around. Not just at winter when we spend a couple of weeks or even couple of months on a seashore and enjoying the weather. Should consider cost of living, should consider immigration rules, which are different between different countries, and actually changing lately. All world is changing, and here there are the changes, and many different factors before they really land, I would say, the destination. And here I am happy to help as well.
Well, it's interesting. I've had people say, "Oh, I vacation in Puerto Vallarta. I love it." And I said, "Well, have you been there in July?"
Absolutely.
And the answer, right?
Absolutely.
When it's just hotter than all get out. Or the fact that beach communities tend to be very transient. Who do you want to associate with? Who do you want to have as friends? And if all your friends leave for 6 months of the year, is that what you want? I have a friend who likes to quote me. I said, the decision where you want to move or where you want to relocate is an experiential decision and not a logical decision.
No, there is some element of, I would say, analysis, maybe not logical, should be if you're considering several countries and don't know what to select, what is the better for you. But even in such big country as Mexico, actually in each country, even small one, there is different places with different microclimate, with different expat communities, with many differences. People should consider it and should learn in advance and should be prepared for unknown. Even with all we are learning, we need to be open for unknown, which obviously will present themselves like itself in every place we will land.
So what kind of challenges should people expect when they decide to relocate?
First of all, I would say they should be clear to select the country and region in the country which is better matching their particular situation. It's what I'm telling. So that even your neighbor or your friend is relocated, say, to Portugal or to Ecuador, and it's good to have social circle. I'm always kind of for it. But you should to consider your own circumstances, your budget, your health. Do you have family close back home in the United States and Canada, and how you will connect with them? Do you have some business which might require, your constant being around somehow. Even Wi-Fi connection in your new place, even what type of community or what type of social circle you would like to be associated with. And one of the first questions is, do you speak the local language? Actually, all this and many of similar, I would say, lifestyle defining questions, I created questionnaire for people, even before they coming to me already, to start thinking about it, to filter different options, because you don't know what you don't know. Yes. And when you see the questions, you kind of start your process of filtering out your own option. Again, if you woman moving alone, you might have, certain requirements, additional requirements. If you have medical challenges and specific medical challenges, it's what I'm asking as well. You should probably to avoid this area and be better located, in other area of Mexico. It's what I'm speaking about. And even to be close to the certain hospitals, which might be relevant to your situation. It's one of the reasons why so many people are living for years in Lake Chapala area. Yes, because it's close to Guadalajara. But there are some other areas and new hospitals are building now. But so people should consider, and I'm helping with this, like different aspects of life. If it's family with the children, it's completely different, requirements. It should be city with good, I would say, international school, or if you're considering to learn maybe, some university or college nearby. So every situation is different. That's why to consider all these factors together, I think it's very important to avoid future disappointment, because sometimes even it's not the fault of this or other country. It's, I think, because people were not prepared for the local specifics. It's kind of spoiled all the good impression.
Yeah, when we first started looking at moving to either Mexico, we originally thought we were going to move to Ecuador. There was an Ecuadorian expat book that the comment that really has stuck with me is, he said, if you relocate and you live like a local, eat like a local, transport like a local, try to learn the language, you'll live a happier, healthier, longer life. If you go and just keep on living like an American, transport like an American, eat like an American, you can, and you'll pay for it, monetarily, health-wise, and probably with happiness.
It's not about Ecuador only. It's about any place you can find yourself or you desire to go. And telling the truth here, like many Americans and Canadians have issues, a lack of knowledge of additional language, but it's not the end of the world. You can learn it. And I think it's actually the best use of your time when you get free time at new place, and the best opportunity to start your even small talk conversation with locals. And to be fair, like Mexicans and I believe some other Latin American local people, they will be happy to speak with you, forgiving you all possible mistakes, trying to help you to express yourself, and actually going extra mile if you ask for something in Spanish.
This episode is sponsored by the Career Pivot Membership Community. The Career Pivot Membership Community is a group of people from all over the U.S. and Canada with diverse backgrounds. This is a community where everyone is there to help everyone else out figure out what they want to do in the second half of life and then make it happen. Many have made changes that they did not know existed or was possible when they came to the community. They learned from each other and broadened their horizons on what was really possible. Let's hear what Russ said about being part of the community.
At first, I got a lot out of the community, just meeting new people and finding folks in my phase of life. And that was really encouraging. As I've been in it a longer time, I'm now realizing that I have a community that knows me. And this is people who know me in a new way. And that is something that I've really come to realize that it's kind of, I don't really want to part with it. It's valuable in terms of support. It's also valuable in terms of accountability. And I find that, I always get questions asked to me. I also learn things. For example, the idea of pivoting to do some online appearances is an idea that came out of a career pivot. We had an evening where we talked about how to do that. I'm also teaching classes with something called Get Set Up, and a member of the Career Pivot community kind of recruited me to come teach classes with Get Set Up. So it was a good contact. I'm over 60 and heading toward the middle of that decade, and I find that we are a unique group. Some of us, like me, don't ever have plans on retiring. We just want to find work that we love for the rest of our life.
You can't just join the community. I bring people into the community every few months in groups. You can sign up for the waiting list, so when I open the door for new members, you'll be notified. If you're interested in learning more about the endeavor and sign up for the waiting list, please go to careerpivot.com/community. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, I've experienced, I learned German when I was in school. I studied Mandarin when I was going in China 20 years ago. And notice I tried to learn it. I studied it. I didn't. My wife has never learned another language. And she's gotten very good with Google Translate and the other Translate. And there are ways of doing that it's learning how to communicate and using the tools. And it's never been easier. Yeah. The challenge I find a lot of people have is they don't want to speak until they can speak well. And I'm willing to butcher the language. I'll make the effort. People appreciate when you make the effort. And I have a set of merchants that I go into regularly, and I basically tell them, don't speak English to me. And then I have phrases that I've come up with, like for a while there, right before rainy season starting, I was asking everybody, can you make it rain? And of course, it's funny. But the idea is that's how you build relationships. In my opinion, to relocate, it's all about relationships.
Yes.
It's right. It's the relationships you're leaving behind and how you're going to stay connected with them. Kids, grandkids, parents.
And today there are a lot of tools to be in connection.
And then there are the person who's going on the journey with you and make sure they're on the same page.
Absolutely.
And then once you get to the place, who do you want to build your social circles around? I commonly say, like where I live here in Ajijic, it's kind of like going to college. Everyone's from someplace else, and a minimum number of people, and people tend to be very open and friendly. But the key piece is, do you want to have relationships with expats? Do you want to have relationships with the locals? Do you want to have with both? Who do you want to have relationships with? That's one of the things to think about ahead of time.
And I think you have excellent opportunity to try different type of relationship. Yep. And to find whatever works for you now, and actually what will help you to learn language and to learn something new about different people coming from different culture. If you have international cohort of people, I would say, and to make new friends. And actually, Ajijic is somehow, I think it's one of the unique places when you have a lot of opportunities, even in between expat community members. And I know there are different even circles, and I would say sub-circles, but it's only up to you to be socially involved. There's society, like Lake Chapala Society and other societies. Far as I know, there are several English-speaking theaters, even in Ajijic, competing with each other. And I think it's an excellent competition type. There's local volunteering opportunities and a lot of options, sport, culture, communication, you name it. And actually even to launch your new business, it's probably you're working in this direction.
one of the things that people don't always take in consideration is healthcare, health insurance. Actually, and I always tell people the first thing you need to do is start seeing the doctors in the location that you're thinking of going, and looking to see whether the medications you are currently on are available. And I want to know what your thoughts on that.
For me, it's a common sense.
Yes.
But I understand what it might be common sense for me. It's not the common sense for some others. And every country has their own kind of list of pharmaceutical treatments and what they have available in country. But I think in case of Americans and even Canadians who are kind of pretty often going back and forth because it's still close, it's not so big issue. You just need to be sure at the beginning. Okay, practical advices. When you come in, say, first time for a couple of months, and some people starting from 3, 4, 5, like winter period, for me, it's obviously taking enough reserve of whatever you prescribe to, whatever you need to. And when you have this time, actually free time, you're going around in this city and you look at the pharmacies and you asking, or you're looking for equivalent to be sure, like, and maybe I would say even take to try local similar brand, like different brand, but local, to see how you feel. So you will know that exactly you can rely on this or other drugs. If not, and you're sure it's not here and maybe in another state of Mexico, because by the way, I noticed like different pharmacies other than big one like Guadalajara, in different states there are different pharmacies. And you can find something not in this one to another one, like Quintana Roo in Yucatan, you can find another brand names. And I'm speaking about Mexican brand names in other countries as well. And you can ask in Facebook groups. It's kind of one option as well, even before you coming, if people familiar with, this or other type of treatment. So I would say it's manageable issue. Even not the issue when you're not prepared, but when you prepared, it became kind of list of what you need some personal stuff to bring with you, and obviously your medication, it's number one on this personal stuff list.
Yeah, because one of the things I've found is people make the assumption that healthcare, how it's delivered in the US or in Canada, that applies to any other country. And the answer is it doesn't.
No, I don't know why people have this assumption.
They've never experienced anything else, so they don't know. And so I'll use the example right now. My wife is going to be going in for heart surgery, have a mitral valve replaced. And we've been interviewing surgeons. We've been finding out the cost. Rather interesting, in order to have the operation, we have to come up with blood donors.
You should find them?
Yes, I have to find them. And by the way, about half the people who they're very, very strict on who they will take blood from. It's only 18 to 60 people who are of ages 18 to 65. They can't be on any medication. They can't have a tattoo in the last year, which includes eyebrows and lips. They can't, I've met 4 or 5 people who have asked if they would be donors, and they said, well, I've had hepatitis in the past. That disqualifies them.
I know it's how it should be. Kudos to Mexican health system.
So I've been warned the fact that that'll probably take, if I need 5 donors, I'm going to need 10 to 15 people.
But you need correct group, blood group.
No, you just need, they just want blood for the blood bank to replace.
For the blood bank. It's not a particular case. And
so but it's one of those things that you have to be open to the fact that the way healthcare is delivered is just different.
Always different culture, different country, even it's across the border. But that's why it's different country, because many things actually should be different.
Well, and rather interesting, we've decided to have the operation here. We are covered by Medicare in the US.
Good for you.
But what it really comes down to is I'll probably, right now, it looks like I'm going to spend about $30,000 to have it done in Mexico. I probably would spend $15,000 to $20,000 going back to the US because I'd have to travel. I have deductibles for Medicare. And so it's like, I'd rather have it done here where my wife's team of doctors, it's interesting. They talk to one another. Her hematologist and her endocrinologist and her gastroenterologist and her cardiologist all are in the same practice.
So you're surprised that they talk with each other, because in the United States they don't have time or desire to speak with each other?
Oh, I have long stories of dealing with my mother.
I know.
And it's just it's refreshing. And I'm willing to, and we pretty much self-insure. And, people say, well, that's a lot of money. I said, well, for the last 5 years, I haven't been paying when we left the US, I was paying $12,000 to $15,000 a year in health insurance premiums. And I haven't paid those for at least for the last 3 of those years before I was a Medicare eligible. So it's like, I'm ready for it. But I said Guadalajara is less than an hour away, and my wife's a retired nurse, which means she's a pain in the butt patient, and she loves her doctors.
So it's already a big advantage.
Yes.
And why you would go again back home is if here you have actually circle of care that you need to. Yeah. And speaking about us Canadians, we don't have any Medicare. We really need to rely on our own savings, or whatever we might, work in Mexico. But people still going to Mexico, even without government support, which would be after 6 months discontinued if people are abroad. And that's why Canadians kind of more snowboarding. And I understand and I respect this choice as well. But I believe at some point people will decide or would be, pushed to decide where they would be. And it's normal as well, because life is life, circumstances are changing.
There was one thing that you see that people make a mistake or don't consider when they decide to relocate outside of their own country. What might that be?
People are different. They have different experience and they differently perceive even the same circumstances and behave in a similar situation. But what I would say after we were speaking with you, for other people, for everyone to consider, expect that it will be different from your home country in all aspects. Don't compare with country you came from. Be prepared that you will get out of your comfort zone many times. And it's normal. Only this way you will adjust and you will grow as a person. I know not many people thinking about, personal growth, like I will go back to practical things. Yes, to get out of your comfort zone when you are in a new situation is a normal. Accept it as a period, as a time. Give yourself the time to adjust, but be open, not just, sit at home and somehow it will come. Be open, get out to the people. Being in expat community, if you are more comfortable at the beginning, I understand people speaking your language, it's people of your mentality. You can quickly find who you belong to, or, and you can get some support. Yes, it's very important at the beginning. Be open to communicate with local people. Try to travel. Try to use this free time. You get it. If you get it finally now, it's your time to live your life in full. And now it's up to you how to make this life fulfilled and how to enjoy this life. I understand that we can enjoy our life based on our budget. No illusion here. But I believe in Mexico, you can enjoy it on different budget. If you open to it, if you prepare to it, if you looking to the best ways to fill your day with different activities.
So, Emily, let's finish out with that. If someone wanted to reach out and contact you, how might they do that?
My website is very simple. It's like my first and last name, emilybron.com. I even made my last name not Brown, but Bron. To be simple and not to be mixed with many other Browns. So emilybron.com. I'm active on LinkedIn. I can be found on Facebook. I still have accounts on Twitter and Instagram, but it's not where our people are hanging around. So just I have YouTube. And many of my meetings and conversations with people in Mexico or professionals, it's what I'm doing now. I'm working with professionals, and what I mean now, immigration lawyers, taxation advisor, financial advisors in Canada, in United States, who will help people to prepare correctly. Because today we were speaking about mindset, and it's a big topic. But actually, relocation involves some really legal stuff, I would say, some even routine stuff, financial part. And it all should start from your preparation from home, from this perspective. And after then, step by step, relocating and adjusting to the new country. So you can connect with me, and I will try to find the best place for you. And again, lately I'm working mostly with Mexico. It's my country number one because I'm relocating to Mexico, and Mexico is a big country. But I can help people to relocate to other Latin American countries. And on my website, you can find information with what countries I'm working.
Well, Emily, I will include all of those links in the show notes. Thank you very much for being on the Repurpose Your Career podcast.
Thank you very much. I hope I bring some value. Just to remind everyone that I repurpose my life and career several times. So I wish everyone will do it. And I mean, this transition will have success at new place. Thank you.
After you listen to this episode, if this is of interest, feel free to reach out to Emily. All of her contact information can be found in the show notes. Take a moment, go to careerpivot.com, sign up for the weekly Career Pivot Insights newsletter, which is sent out every Sunday. You'll get a weekly update in this podcast, white papers, and new blog posts. When you subscribe, you'll receive my latest white paper, Ageism, the Last Acceptable Bias. While there, do not forget to check out the Career Pivot community, which can be found at careerpivot.com/community. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of the Repurpose Your Career podcast. You will find all the show notes at careerpivot.com/episode-337. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbeam, Overcast, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and lots of other places where podcasts can be found. In fact, this podcast can be found on the Repurpose Your Career podcast channel on YouTube. Hope to see you next Monday for another episode of Repurpose Your Career podcast.